They say history is written by the victors, but what if the truth was buried with the fallen? Every secret leaves a trace, if you know where to look. This is The Broken Truth, decoding history, one broadcast at a time. The Broken Truth podcast, where history meets conspiracy. Every case tells a story, every story hides a lie. Before we get into the analysis, here are the key developments that shaped this week. The U.S. government shutdown risk resurfaces as budget negotiations stall. Historic North American storm system disrupts infrastructure across multiple states. Pacific Northwest flooding triggers emergency declarations. The U.S. military conducts large-scale strikes against ISIS targets in Syria. Russia intensifies drone and missile strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure. China maintains elevated military activity near Taiwan. Global energy markets react to winter demand and geopolitical risk. U.S. markets trade cautiously amid holiday volume and policy uncertainty. Crypto markets remain range-bound ahead of year-end clarity. Individually, these stories look manageable. Together, they reveal pressure. This week didn't announce itself with a single dramatic event. It unfolded through systems under strain. In Washington, budget negotiations stalled, reviving the threat of a shutdown as the year closes. Across North America, severe storms and flooding exposed infrastructure vulnerabilities at scale. Overseas, U.S. forces struck ISIS targets while Russia and Ukraine escalated infrastructure warfare. And in the Pacific, China kept pressure on Taiwan without crossing red lines. Yet again, none of this felt explosive, but that's the point. When pressure builds across governance, infrastructure, military posture, and markets, history tells us something important. The system isn't breaking, it's tightening. This is your Broken Truth Weekly Intelligence Brief for December 14th through December 20th of 2025. Welcome back to the Broken Truth podcast. I'm your host, Garrett. And once again, this is your weekly intelligence brief. A fact-first, intelligence-style breakdown of what happened this week and why it matters. This is not a highlight reel, it's a situational awareness update. No panic, no speculation, just signal. Let's get into it. Moving on to the global headlines, the U.S. government shutdown risk returns, yet again. So what happened? Congressional negotiations stalled, raising the possibility of a partial shutdown as deadlines approach. Why this matters? Even when shutdowns are avoided, the threat alone creates operational uncertainty, defense delays, market hesitation, and confidence erosion. The shutdown risk is no longer an anomaly, it's structural. Severe winter storms stress infrastructure. What happened? A massive storm system disrupted power, transportation, and emergency services across the US and Canada. Why does this matter? These events impact energy reliability, supply chains, insurance markets, government response capacity. Infrastructure stress often surfaces economically weeks later. The Pacific Northwest flooding escalates. What happened is atmospheric river conditions triggered major flooding in Washington and British Columbia. Well, why does this matter? Flooding disrupts ports, rail corridors, housing markets, regional GDP output. Climate-linked events no longer sit outside economics. They intersect with it. The U.S. military strikes ISIS targets in Syria. Large-scale U.S. strikes followed attacks on American personnel. U.S. engagement continues. Counter-terror operations persist. Escalation risk remains. Sorry to interrupt your regularly scheduled podcast, but this episode is brought to you by the Broken Truth merch. Support the show. Wear the truth. Official Broken Truth podcast merch is live now. Links in the description. And since you've made it this far in the episode, comment hashtag Broken Truth and leave us a 5-star review on your favorite platform. Because when you speak up, the algorithm listens. And so does the world. Strategic disengagement is narrative, not reality. Russia intensifies attacks in Ukraine. Drone and missile strikes targeted Ukrainian energy and port facilities. This is economic warfare. Infrastructure targeting exports inflation, disrupts trade, increases humanitarian strain. China maintains pressure on Taiwan. Elevated air and naval patrols continue without direct confrontation. This matters because this is once again pressure, not normalization. We've seen this week over week. Risk becomes routine, response thresholds shift. Energy markets react to winter and conflict. Prices fluctuated as cold weather and instability raised supply concerns. Energy is the fastest pathway from geopolitics to household economics. Winter amplifies this leverage. The geopolitical tensions. This week was managed escalation. No declarations of war, no sudden troop mobilizations, no red lines crossed. Instead, we have drones over infrastructure, military posturing, targeted deterrence, budget pressure at home. Modern conflict spreads through systems, not battlefields. The American market breakdown. In the stock market, traded flat during holiday thin volume. This signal, low volatility and low participation equals vulnerability, not confidence. The housing market, still frozen. Sellers locked in low rates. Buyers are priced out. Inventory is still constrained. Construction is cautious. Frozen markets do not heal. They delay correction. Then we have the dollar. It remains steady under global stress. This signals temporary stability, but not resolution. Then we also have the bonds. They reflected caution. Lower yields, defensive positioning, and policy anticipation. Bonds see stress before the equities do. The consumer health here in America. Holiday spending masks this pressure. Credit is still high, savings are thin, and costs are rising substantially. Consumers are adapting, not thriving. The crypto market is range-bound. It's waiting for clarity, and the compression dominates. Surveillance technology and control. Instability accelerates control mechanisms. Governments respond with expanded monitoring, faster data sharing, increased platform compliance. These rarely roll back. Control expands best when framed as management, not force. This week reveals a convergence. Governance strain, infrastructure stress, persistent military engagement, economic caution under surface calm, normalized global tension. History shows systematic shifts don't begin with collapse. They begin with coordination under pressure. The near-term watch window. Late December through early January carries elevated risk. Because attention drops, liquidity thins, decisions accelerate. What you need to know. Shutdown threats create uncertainty. Infrastructure stress shows later on. Military engagement continues quietly. Energy remains a geopolitical weapon. Calm markets can mask systematic strain. Control frameworks expand in instability. That is your Broken Truth Weekly Intelligence Brief for December 14th through December 20th, 2025. This, once again, is seeming very repetitive as we continue through December, but overall, there are things to keep an eye out for. Stay aware, stay awake, and stay free.
In a world built on hidden histories and half-truths, we've only just begun to peel back the layers. Because what you've heard tonight was never meant to be known, but you were meant to find it. If you're ready to go deeper, leave us a review, comment your thoughts, share this episode, and step inside the archives. Join the inner circle, where the real evidence is kept. This is the Broken Truth, because the truth isn't whole, it's broken.